I'm Eric Pratt from US Broadcast Distribution, and today I want to show you my new favorite production gear. This is the Skaarhoj RackFusion. Basically, it's everything that you need to do live production in one svelte 2RU unit, and it has switching controls on the left, a little slider for a T-bar, some PTZ controls and a joystick on the right, some encoders to let you dial through your settings. Let's take a look at it. So the right-hand side of the control surface is set up for mainly PTZ options. What I've done is I've set these 6 buttons to be my camera selectors. So I've got cameras 1 and 2 here. Cameras 3, 4, 5, and 6 are blank right now, and I could assign them to be presets, but I'm trying to make a generic preset that I can share with everyone. And then here we've got our PTZ controller here. So I'm going to select camera 2, and you can see that I'm able to zoom in and out on the different parts of the control surface. And then across the top here we have encoders, and this encoder is set to allow you to control the focus mode. So right now it's set to manual, and this switches it over to auto. And then we have exposure mode is set to auto, and we can set it over to manual, which allows us to set both the shutter and the iris independently. We could also set one of these up to be gain if we wanted. I'm going to leave it in the auto exposure mode, so it's always going to show us the best that it can do. And then the left half of the control surface is mainly switching across the bottom. Right now I have this set up to controlling vMix, but this could also control an ATEM or a Tricaster. And then across the top here I have my presets. And if you look closely, you'll see that this says camera 2 presets, and then it says 0 through 5. If I click camera 1, this will change to camera 1 presets. And I'm going to go back to camera 2 now. And then I'd set up this little encoder here to allow me to select, dial through different presets, different banks of presets. And I could make this dial go through several groups so that I could have 24 different presets per camera. So for now, 6 presets is a pretty good number. So let's set a few presets, and I'll show you how that's done. So I'm going to make this one my wide. I basically just held it down until it turned green. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit and hold it down until it's green. And now if I go back to preset 1, and I can go back to preset 2. So I've got a lot of preset options here. And it's pretty quick and responsive. Looking at how the vMix side of things work, if you look at the little LCDs above the buttons, these are responsive. So if I reorganize these, this is Turbo 4K input 1 and Turbo 4K input 2, and this is USB 3 cam. If I reorganize these, it responds. It knows it's pulling this data from the system, and it updates it accordingly. And I'm going to put it back, and you see that the lights follow it as well. So if I press this button, it's going to put whatever is in that button into preview. So here's my NDI source, here's some video, logo, NDI inputs, and then back to my camera input. But if I press and hold it, it'll put it to program. So I'm going to press and hold this down. So watch, I'm going to press and hold, and it goes live. So the particularly neat function here is that I can touch this button, and it'll bring it to program. Touch and hold it, and it'll bring it to program. If I just press it, it'll bring it to preview. So I could press preview and then hit auto, or cut, and then auto and cut. So there's 2 ways of operating this, or several ways of operating this. I have programmed this to be program preview because I like the ability to preview it, but also to put it to program by holding it. So I don't necessarily need to use the auto transition. I think for most of the time, I'm going to touch it and then do auto, touch it and then do auto, touch it and then do auto. So that's the way that I'm used to producing, but that option is there to bring it straight to program. I could have set this control surface up to make this just cuts only. This would be my program bus, and I can just, if I'm in an emergency, I can just hit it to program. I could also set these up to be program inputs as well, or preview. There's the magic of the Skaarhoj control surface is that you can organize it any way that you want. I thought that this was a nice way to share this product with you guys, in that we've got the camera settings, camera select, and shading over here, and then over here we have the camera presets and our switcher, so we can use our transition, our slider. We also have fade to black, shift, and then I have my overlays. Let me move this over a little bit. I have my overlays set here, and then my cut, auto, fade to black, and shift. What does shift do? Well, I made this dial a shift register. So this locally is just affecting this group here. So this is a way of shifting between different settings. I also have this button is set to shift. And what happens when I press this is this is inputs 1 through 8. If I press shift, now this is accessing inputs 9 through 16. So if you scroll down here, you'll see that I'm accessing the inputs at the back of the bus, so to speak. Let's see, what do we have? These are some PTZ presets. Those are blank. So those are some alternate inputs. So I can make this isn't just an 8 input switcher, this is a 16 input switcher. And I can go back here and I can press and hold and bring that to program. Press and hold, bring this to program, and then go back to where I was before. So that is kind of one of the neat things about the Skaarhoj RackFusion. The other cool thing is, or one of many more cool things, there's I have this powered by PoE, so I only have one cable hooked up to this ordinarily during production. So if you see here, there's only the Ethernet. I do have the USB hooked up because I've been programming this. So I've been in the middle of figuring out the best way to configure this for a vMix PTZ optics configuration. And this particular controller came as an ATEM Lumens controller. So I was trying to think of a different way, a nice way to have this configured. And I've got it mostly set. I think I like it. There's a lot more detail that I can get into, alternate things that I can do with shifts and states. Because this is my trade show unit, I'm going to make another configuration to control ATEM, Tricaster, the NewTek PTZ camera, and more. But this is how I've gone through and configured how this unit works. So this is what the configuration side of things looks like when you use the firmware updater, which is a piece of software from their website, and then you use it to load different cores. So if I go into my device cores here and say, so here's the alternate, this is the ATEM and Lumens setup, and if I wanted to add another device in here, like for the trade show, I'm going to want to add, where's the ATEM control? I'm going to want to add the ATEM control, and then there's also the NewTek PTZ camera in here. So that's probably what I'm going to set up for the trade show as well. I also need to add the ADA full VISCA control over serial over IP over serial, serial over IP. Not sure if that's the right way around. So I'll be adding more cores to this for some upcoming trade shows, and I think that's probably a good explanation of how this unit is configured for now. There's a lot of different ways that we can make this go. If you recall, I was saying I could make this, if I wanted that row of buttons to be program bus, I would just say, instead of preview active, I would say active. Or if I wanted to make sure I never brought it to program accidentally by holding it down too long, I could just make these preview. And then if I want to change like what the transition does. So let's say I never use the cut button. I could make it be fade, and now you're wondering, well, why do you have two fades? Because vMix has a number of different styles of fade, so I could make the cut button be fade style too. If you go back here, these are the 4 different fade styles. So the first one is set to fade, and the second one is set to merge. I use merge a lot more than I do cut. So now I have mapped cut to be my merge style. And if I wanted to set these guys over here, so I mentioned I only have 2 cameras. So let's say I have a third, fourth, I probably will only have 4 cameras. I could make this 5th button be whatever I want. So if I come in here, instead of being a camera selector, I could make this be a preset for any particular camera or particular bus. Maybe I need the particular camera to zoom in on the controller, so I want to have that regardless of what camera I have set to. I can always pull up this preset for camera 1 here. So this is just different examples of things that we could do to customize the control. But what I'm doing here, and let me just put it back before I forget, camera select, memory AA, camera 5. The reason why I'm kind of doing that is that you can now share your configurations. So in the I can share this unit with everybody, and this is what I'm going to do here. Is I'm going to share this unit, and then you can subscribe to this. So if I make changes to this, if I figure out a better way to skin a cat, you'll be able to subscribe to this this configuration, and that way you can always have the latest and greatest